this interview, I'm interviewing Mark Price from Shadow Lab and Marcus Vorment, author of War on Titan. So, Marcus, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into writing.
I started writing when I was young, but I wasn't diligent enough to follow through. I remember writing this werewolf story about the year 1980, and it just went missing and all the rest of it. And then there was another book that I was writing. I think that was a bit of a serial killer or something, and I just didn't have the discipline to follow through at that time. So I went to college and I did my City and Guilds learning plastering, and I went into the building trade, and I just carried on from there, working for councils, being sent all these weird places, and working in all these funny houses and stuff, and I carried on from there, and I never really picked up on it. And I was always told at school that I'd got some creative ability for art and writing, and I just didn't have the discipline in them days to do anything with it. I got to a point when I was 34 years old in 1999. I just had this bit of a life-changing experience. My mum died and I got divorced at the same time, and this switch kind of flipped in my brain, and I decided I'm going to do things that people say you shouldn't do and all the rest of it. And I just decided to be completely different to how I'd been before in my life, and I did all these trips to Norway and the Arctic, camping, trying to drive to the North Cape. We had to be rescued, the car was frozen solid, and I just went a bit wild, if you like. And it was a good thing, because it was like this spiritual rebirth for me. I was doing what I wanted to do, not what other people say you should do. And from there I had this explosion of creativity, and I started writing these short stories, and I had about 11 of these stories published all together with a publisher in Peterborough. Here's some of them, all different ones really, sci-fi, horror, combination. One of the books, they actually put one of my stories as the first story in the book to set the tone, a story called The Vengeance. I had to shorten the story for their purposes. My story was a little bit too long for what they wanted. But as you can see there, The Vengeance, Marcus Vorment, they told me that they thought my story would set the tone for the rest of it, and I was really proud of that.
Yeah,
so
it's quite an achievement.
Yeah, so from that point I decided to write a novel, and I wrote this novel called Visions of Hell. It was about 75,000 words long, and I sent a covering letter and a synopsis and 3 sample chapters to various London publishers, and one of them complimented it, but she said we don't deal in nebulous evil forces, so I decided to self-publish that one, And then later on I was exploring the idea of writing a science fiction book where science fiction meets horror, if you like. So I bought some books by a visionary physicist called Michio Kaku, and I was reading all this stuff as prophecies, if you like, of what technologies would be like in the future, hundreds of years from now, and I was studying all this to the nth degree. When I was at university, I studied a certain amount of microbiology and astrophysics and that type of thing, so I was getting all these influences. So I decided to write this War in Cincinnati 2. Cincinnati 2 is the name of one of the major cities on Titan, which is a moon of Saturn. So I decided to write this, and then we later changed to War on Titan. And this was 120,000 words in length. So I had to have diagrams and all sorts of stuff so that I don't lose continuity. I've got sheets and sheets of descriptions of people's personalities so that I don't forget, and all this type of thing. So then eventually I self-published War on Titan, did the artwork for it, which is here somewhere, I think. That was the artwork at the time, and the basic concept was what's known as extremophile life forms that some scientists believe could exist in places like Titan with methane lakes and methane atmosphere and that type of thing. So as time's gone by, I'm not doing much writing at the moment. I'm concentrating on astronomical art because we've got some commissions with an observatory and that type of thing. So at the moment everything's art with me at the moment, so the writing's put to one side at the moment.
And I assume that you did the art for the book too.
Yes, I did the art for the book cover and all that type of thing.
Okay.
So, like, and then as time went by, I can't remember exactly how I met Mark, but I did. I think I wanted him to do some copying for me. My experiences in Norway, getting myself into trouble in the Arctic and cars being frozen solid, and I got so much video footage, and I wanted it put on DVD, and I can't remember how I got to know about Mark doing this type of thing, but we got talking. He did this work for me. It went from there, and as time went by, he read the book, and then one day he says, listen, what do you think if I make an album of music about War on Titan? And at the time it was really exciting to me, because I've been into what you call space ambient music for quite a long time. People like the Intangible and Dream State Logic and Interconnected Cosmos and people like that, and I was listening to all this type of music a lot, and Mark was giving me demonstrations of what he could do, and I'm like, wow, this is like the stuff I listen to. So I'm like, well, yeah, can you do this?
So it naturally fed into a collab.
Yeah, I'm like, can you do it? Like, you know, so it's been 2 or 3 years in the making, hasn't it, Mark? I think the album or something.
Yeah.
So it's like really exciting, really exciting.
Tell me a bit about how the book influenced War on Titan, the music, and the work that you've been doing, and how it's influenced you as a person.
Yeah. So downloaded the book from Amazon. And it just inspired me. I just heard all these creative ambient tracks of every chapter. I can imagine the characters. I messaged Marcus and said I could do an album soundtrack to this, as though there was a film, and he said, you go for it. So that's what I did. So on the album there's 22 tracks. There was nearly 48, but I've edited them down, got rid of some of the dead wood, and made it was going to be a double album, and now it's a single album, and it's over before you've got into it. You know, it's not boring. It's just encapsulates the whole book, the story. So yeah.
Are there any tracks that you feel reflect some of the characters in there specifically?
Or
just the ambience
scenes,
of the feel of the book?
There's one of my favourites is Sabertooth Patrol. It's about the military elite who are bred to be one step higher than normal humans to actually fight in combat. So there's a scene in the book where the patrol, Sabertooth Patrol, go into the abandoned city on Titan, and I wrote the music to that. That's one of my favourite parts of the whole album. And then I've done the visuals for each track, which is going to be on a DVD as well. And some of the snippets have been released during the year, only 30 seconds or 1 minute, and but it's a full 50-minute DVD of all the visuals. So yeah.
What influenced you in getting into music? How about your earlier career, and what brought you to this point? Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Right, have you got an hour? There's a couple of stories here, but the couple of ways it happened is there's always a piano in my house and in my grandmother's house, so I always had a little tinkle, and then I started piano lessons from the age of 5, and I was learning all this rubbish school taught melodies like Boys and Girls Come Out to Play, and it just wasn't my thing. And then the light bulb moment was when David Bowie was on Top of the Pops with Starman, and I learnt it on piano, and then I discovered Rick Wakeman, Keith Emerson, yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Genesis, and I got into what they call progressive rock, but I was also into electronic music, so they ran parallel. So I was into Tangerine Dream, Kraftwerk, Gary Newman, alongside Genesis, Pink Floyd, So them two are combined, so that's why I can pull different influences into the music. So the album, the first run of the album sold out within a matter of a week.
Wow.
And so there's two fan bases. There's one electronic fan base and the other fan base is progressive rock. That's why it sold out so quickly. So I'm thinking of having it repressed, but it's nice to sell out. It's nice to have it on the new site. It's available on Bandcamp, so it's nice to show it's sold out. And I'm getting messages every other day. Are you re-releasing it? Are you after the DVD? So the DVD will be released next to capitalise on that, and that has the full album on with a couple of remixes. But yeah, it's been successed.
Great.
And I'm already on the next album, not the sequel, but a different album. Just to have a break from that because I started working on the album in June 2021, and I actually finished it a year before it was released because I wasn't sure about the title, and we kept going back and forth. And because of the band I play with, High Spy, progressive rock band, they decided to bring their release date forward, so it would have clashed. So I said, okay, High Spy can release theirs, and then, which was last July, and then I'll release mine after, which was January 2024. Yeah, but that was a quick scenario of how I got into music. And the funny story is that my mum played piano. She's still alive. I said that in the past tense, but yeah. And but they're saying, well, that my mum played to a level, then there was an higher level I played to, and the family was saying, well, where's he got this influence from? Well, digging into my past, my family past, my nan was on a second marriage, but the first marriage, where my mum was involved, was born to that marriage. He was a pianist and concert pianist, so that's where it comes from.
Wow.
But the family never spoke about him until I was about 14, and then they told me about him.
Generational talent in music.
Yeah, so that's how it was. It was only when at the age of 13 I was doing gigs, playing with 20-year-olds in bands, smuggled into pubs, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Tell me you got a pint.
I
won't tell.
I had a shandy or a Vimto. But that's how I got into music, and how I got into visual stuff as well was because nobody was doing the visual stuff to what I liked.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm into video as well as audio. So.
Weren't you with Clay Records initially, from Hope Street?
I wasn't with Clay Records. I was with Griffin Records.
Yeah.
The band I joined because I used to be in Grace as well. They were signed to MCA and Clay.
Yeah.
Then they split up and then reformed, and then we got signed by Griffin.
Yeah.
Which we did 3-4 albums.
Yeah.
And then I did, after 4 albums, I had enough and left.
Yeah.
Set up this other band called The Eternal Machine, which is still going. That's a synth electronic band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is Felix, as the other half, who did the cover for War on Titan, the CD cover.
See, yes. I know you do a lot of painting and stuff. Will you be bringing that into your work as well, going forwards?
Yes. I don't really have time for writing another book at the moment, although Mark's music has inspired me to write a sequel, but I'll come back to that. But I've got commissions with the University Observatory for astronomical artwork, and they're very happy with what I'm doing. I've got all these commissions for painting dogs. Everybody wants a dog, that type of thing. And I'm trying to break in on these supercars, so I'm speaking to a major manufacturer like about doing paintings of their cars, but at the moment I'm quite busy with the observatory up at Kiel with all these commissions I've got. I wish there was some way I could show them here, like, you know, so I'm quite busy with that at the moment. But my favourite track on the album that Mark's done is, what's it called, Mark? Neptune, A New Beginning? Yeah, because when I wrote the book, it was a terror ride for me, because I'm not just writing the book, it's like someone else is writing it. I get that engrossed, and because it's such a terror ride, I'm trying to save lives as I'm writing the book. I can remember this at the time, and it used to exhaust me, it used to make me bad writing this. So this track, Neptune, A New Beginning, comes at the end of the book when all this horror's over with, and it's like a relief. So it's kind of made me think, because the sole survivor in the story travels to Neptune in this stolen spaceship, it's kind of made me think about writing a sequel. And that track, whereas I influenced Mark initially, my book influenced him to do the album, music on his album is now influencing me to write a sequel, maybe next year, maybe about this sole survivor, and he goes out to Neptune, like, and that type of thing. So there's inspiration there, like, you know. Yeah, there's inspiration there, like, but this year it's not possible for me to do that. I'm bombed out with artwork. It's not possible this year. Next year it's possible, maybe.
And doing the album has taken a lot out of me. 3 years of writing and producing. Yeah.
And don't forget, which track was it that they played on Radio Tamworth a while ago? You had a track played, didn't you?
Freedom to Eternity.
The
Vangelis inspired one.
Yeah.
That's Freedom to Eternity, the last track.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
great.
In my vision, it was the captain is neither male or female. It's gone into a new evolution of human.
Yeah.
So it's and he's just drifting off to Neptune, and that's the piece on the video. I've done the video to it as well.
Yeah. So. I love the way the album is similar to the book in some ways, but different in others, because it's Mark's interpretation of the story. And I remember seeing a programme on television years and years ago about Stephen King, and he wrote The Shining, and Stanley Kubrick made the film The Shining with Jack Nicholson, and Stephen King hated it. He absolutely hated it, because it wasn't true to the book, like, because Jack Nicholson's character in the book is a lunatic from the get-go, whereas in the book he's slowly becoming like that because of the supernatural activity in the Overlook Hotel. So I can understand why Stephen King wasn't happy with it. So in the end, Stephen King had The Shining done again, and I watched it, and it just didn't work the same. And I always think, like, this problem between authors and filmmakers and stuff like that, let their interpretation stand. I learnt a lesson from that, and I thought, this is Mark's interpretation, like, you know, of the book, how it speaks to him, that sort of thing, like, you know.
I think that we all have different interpretations, because everybody's got their own interpretation of the truth, just same as everybody will have their own interpretation of your book. So the characters may be wildly different in their heads, but the stories felt still very real and very current.
Yeah, mine started out very dark, very, very dark, because when I was a child, we used to go down to Shelton Bar Steelworks, that hasn't existed in a long time now, and everything you look at in Stoke-on-Trent, that's now Festival Park and the Grange Park and all that area, that was like this otherworldly place, and we, as kids, we called it the Black Hills with slag heaps and tar lagoons, and there was what we called the ghost towns and giant storm drains, and it was this like otherworldly, super dangerous place, and then you got the steelworks in the middle of it. And this place was terrifying when I was young, but we were attracted to it at the same time. And I remember H.G. Wells, who wrote The War of the Worlds, he came to stay at the Queen's Hotel, I think it was, in Basford. He came to stay there.
He actually rented a terraced.
Oh, did he? He wasn't actually in the Queen's, like,
Victoria Street.
Did he?
There's a plaque. There's a blue plaque.
Oh, right. Yeah. There was stand corrected there. But he walked down the bank, apparently, Basford Bank.
Yeah.
And when he saw Shelton Bar and the slag heaps of that, he was horrified. It filled him with horror and awe at the same time. So he decided to write a short story about it called The Cone, about a murder mystery over in the steelworks.
Yeah.
And this influenced me that much with the steelworks. I decided to put this steelworks on Titan which is one of Saturn's moons, where they're developing this new metal that's newly discovered. That's, it's the strongest metal ever discovered. So I decided to translate that I saw when I was young to a scientific sci-fi perspective, if you like, over 2.5 centuries in the future. Like so my version of the story is perhaps a lot darker than Mark's, because it started out dark, and it just as it's dark, and I felt the same way as H.G. Wells felt in that sense. It's this whole thing just filled me with dread, but I was attracted to it at the same time.
Dark tracks though. It balances. It isn't all dark, or you'd have people.
I'm glad it isn't actually.
Depressed listening to it.
And it's saving for myself sometimes.
There's some light and shade. So there's a scene where the president is going to do a press conference early on,
and you've got all those people gathered, haven't you? That type of thing.
But you've got he arrives in an air limo. So that's quite a light track. But then it goes into a dark track straight away. And it's all melodic and thematic. So it's but there's some, you've got to have light and shade with music. You can't have it all down. Not like a book.
It's a good job I didn't do it. It's a good job I didn't do the music then, isn't it?
It's quite surprising, because the comments I've got fed back, it's like it takes you on a journey, but then just as you think everything's happy, it just pulls you down. And then when you pull down, it pulls you back up. And that's the journey through the album.
Can you talk about some of the textures that you put into your music as well, and how you've worked that through the album?
The keyboards I used are a mixture of analog and digital, and if people are aware, that is various manufacturers, Roland, Korg, etc. So with creating music, you've got to create textures of like the bass, the middle and the treble, and you've got to make sure the clarity's there, but not afraid to use distortion and various effects and panning effects and things like that, and sit back and go, is this boring, or is this pulling me in to listen to it? And I don't think there's a boring part on the album.
I love it.
It's over before I think it is about 46 minutes.
I absolutely love it. I mean, I've got the CD, as you know. I listen to it on Bandcamp. I'm doing some DIY at the weekend, and I've got it on. And
there's artificial intelligence voiceovers, but they're in the background. They were up front, weren't they? But they're more into the mix. So that gives an added texture, and you can hear them clearly with headphones, but it's got an added texture. And we'll, on this video interview, I'll insert some of the music as we talk about it, the tracks. So that'll be interesting to pick up on.
Okay. And finally, I understand you're going to insert some of the information on how to get the music and how to get the book War on Titan in the comments below. So if anybody wants a copy or wants to listen to a copy.
So don't bother with the book, just buy the...
It's a good mate for you.
No, the book's available on Amazon. And the album's available on Bandcamp, and at the moment it's on Bandcamp, and the reason it isn't on Amazon or Spotify, because the CD sales are still happening, and as soon as it goes on Spotify, you kill the sales. So it will go on Spotify in about 7 months.
Okay.
So, but at the moment it's on Shadow Lab, Bandcamp, or on Titan. Now, if enough people are interested, they'll go for a repress. So, buy it.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks
it's been
a lot.
Great interviewing you and having you here.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.